In an unexpected turn, North Korea has sent tens of thousands of troops to support Russia in its war with Ukraine. While this involvement may not change the war's outcome, it has raised tensions, particularly for China. As North Korea's ally, Beijing now faces the reality that it may be losing control over Kim Jong-un's decisions. Could this mark the unraveling of the once strong China-North Korea bond? How will this shift affect China's influence on the global stage? But before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, Facts About China. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. North Korea's support for Russia has sent shockwaves globally, with China, the US, South Korea, and NATO closely monitoring the situation. Experts warn that North Korea's closer ties to Russia may shift the regional power balance and weaken China's influence over its ally, complicating Beijing's regional strategy. World Politics Review 2024. China's reaction, however, has been remarkably restrained. On October 30th, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko, reiterating the close China-Russia relationship. Wang Yi avoided any direct comments on North Korea's involvement with Russia. A stance further echoed on November 1st by Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Li Jinjiao, who stated that North Korea and Russia's interactions are their own business. This stance underscores China's delicate position. Beijing's silence may be a calculated move to avoid confrontation with Russia and Kim Jong-un's unpredictable regime. Besides, analyst Dennis Wilder has called China's muted response astonishing, particularly as Beijing now faces a partner it may no longer fully control. Foreign Policy Institute 2023. Another key concern for China is the deepening collaboration between countries like Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China itself. Often viewed as authoritarian states opposed to Western ideologies, these nations have increasingly been seen as a potential new axis. Coined at the 15th Halifax International Security Forum last November, Chairman Peter Van Praag suggested the term CRINC. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea describes the growing alliance that appears to be challenging global norms and stability. While each of these countries operates independently, experts believe their shared anti-Western stances and authoritarian policies create a unique and formidable coalition. Halifax Security Report 2023. As tensions escalate, some Western leaders see China as the enabler within this coalition, particularly because of its substantial resources and economic influence. In a 2022 speech, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken described China as the only nation with both the capacity and intent to reshape the international order. Blinken argued that China's support indirectly fuels Russia's ongoing aggression in Ukraine, given the economic leverage it provides to its allies. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Iran and North Korea have emerged as key supporters, supplying drones and ammunition, respectively, and even reportedly committing troops. Although China has refrained from directly providing arms, it has backed Russia economically and through dual-use military-civilian equipment. North Korea's loyalty to Russia has solidified since June when, after a 24-year absence, Vladimir Putin revisited Pyongyang. This visit led to a comprehensive strategic agreement, which included mutual defense promises if either country faced an armed attack. Notably, this arrangement requires immediate military support under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, potentially sidelining China's strategic objectives in the region. This alignment has, unsurprisingly, captured international attention. According to the South China Morning Post, Sidney Seiler, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, interprets these moves as a way for Moscow to fortify its positions by soliciting whatever assistance it can muster. North Korea's actions could imply its desire to secure benefits from this strategic alliance, especially as China's influence appears to wane. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un's engagement with Russia hints at a pragmatic approach where he expects to receive compensation for his support. For North Korea, Russia appears to offer a partnership that China has been unwilling or unable to provide. Victor Cha, a former White House National Security Council official, described North Korea's military support as a down payment on a security relationship with Russia, filling a role that Beijing historically has not fulfilled. A senior researcher from the Korea Institute for National Unification similarly observed that North Korea's troop involvement in Russia marks a crossing of a red line for China. Strengthening ties between Pyongyang and Moscow could weaken Beijing's influence over North Korea, resulting in a strained Beijing-Pyongyang relationship. Additionally, Andrei Lankov, a North Korea expert and professor at Kookmin University in Seoul, suggested that North Korea's growing ties with Russia could be a strategic maneuver to diversify its alliances, ensuring greater leverage in its dealings with both Moscow and Beijing. In September, relations between North Korea and China showed signs of strain, despite both countries historically referring to each other as mountains and rivers connected by a time-honored friendship. However, as Professor Ramon Pacheco Pardo of King's College London pointed out, China's influence over North Korea has diminished considerably. North Korean sources revealed that Kim Jong-Un referred to China as a sworn enemy following increased pressure from Beijing. In response, Kim reportedly told North Korean diplomats in China to stop worrying about China's opinion, a clear sign of his growing independence from Beijing's guidance. Adding further complexity to the situation, Han Kai-byum, a former senior South Korean intelligence official, observed that Kim has historically viewed China as a 5,000-year foe, in contrast to his framing of the United States and Japan as century-long enemies. This framing highlights the deepening rift between Pyongyang and Beijing, a rift that was visible during North Korea's 76th National Day celebrations. While Xi Jinping sent a diplomatic message aimed at reaffirming ties, his words were noticeably less enthusiastic than those of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin's message expressed confidence in strengthening Russia-North Korea relations, while Xi's comments sounded more neutral, emphasizing strategic communication and cooperation. The shift in loyalty from China to Russia has raised questions about the future of the 1961 China-North Korea Treaty of Friendship, which obligates both nations to offer mutual assistance in the event of an attack. If North Korea were to become directly involved in the Ukraine conflict and suffer retaliation, Beijing might find itself caught between honoring its treaty with Pyongyang and maintaining its stance toward Moscow. This potential scenario has left China in a precarious position, caught between its declining influence over North Korea and its growing tensions with the West, particularly over the Ukraine conflict. Moreover, Shi Yinnong, a professor of international relations at Renmin University in China, recently commented on the unease Beijing feels over North Korea's growing military alliance with Russia. This partnership, marked by mutual isolation, has raised alarms in China, which has always attempted to manage the tensions surrounding North Korea. While Xi Jinping has promised unwavering cooperation with Vladimir Putin, it is evident that Beijing's limits have been tested. While providing some economic assistance to Russia, China cannot openly supply arms due to international constraints, leaving Putin in a somewhat unsatisfactory position. For years, Kim Jong-un has looked to China for technological advancements to bolster his nuclear ambitions. Satellite and submarine technology were among the key requests, but China has been hesitant to provide such sensitive technologies, fearing both Western backlash and the destabilizing effects of an empowered North Korea. According to French media Le Monde, there are strong incentives for North Korea and Russia to strengthen their ties. In exchange for military support, North Korea gains access to Russian technology, as well as food aid and potential protection from harsher international sanctions, with Russia likely vetoing UN action in North Korea's favor. The ongoing nuclear tests by North Korea and the increasingly belligerent rhetoric from Kim Jong-un have only added to the tension. Beijing, already on edge from the growing security cooperation between the US, Japan, and South Korea, finds itself squeezed on multiple fronts. This trilateral alliance, strengthened last year during meetings at Camp David, has made China feel encircled, increasing pressure on its position regarding Taiwan and the South China Sea. Experts assert that while North Korea relies heavily on China for trade and aid, Beijing is unable to effectively rein in its allies' behavior. Despite China's indirect support for Russia in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Beijing's position regarding North Korea's deeper involvement in the war is less certain. Kim Jong-un's actions seem to offer little to China in return, both diplomatically and strategically. This has led to speculation that China may not have been fully aware of North Korea's decision to send troops to Russia, paralleling earlier doubts about Beijing's knowledge of Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Caught between two strong-willed leaders, Xi Jinping may feel his authority is diminishing, a scenario that leaves China in a somewhat awkward and passive position. Instead of commenting directly on the developments, Xi has called on other nations to avoid exacerbating the situation. The term Axis powers brings to mind WWI's alliance of Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan, formalized in 1940 to challenge the Allied forces led by the US and the UK. Decades later, in 2002, former US President George W. Bush revived the concept, labeling North Korea, Iraq the axis of evil due to their support for terrorism. More recently, Rob Whitman, Vice Chair of the House Armed Services Committee, warned that today's world faces a similar crossroads. Speaking at the Hudson Institute on October 17th, he argued that an emerging axis of nations, Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, could destabilize global security even more profoundly than before. Such insights bring to mind recent reports on global arms trades, where countries have been implicated in circulating destabilizing technologies, including drone technologies deployed in areas of conflict like Ukraine. Whitman specifically underscored China's role in providing critical circuit boards and systems that have shown up in drones downed in Ukraine. Additionally, he highlighted North Korea's role in supplying artillery to Russia, while Iran manufactures drones utilized by Russian forces on the battlefield. Whitman claimed that in contrast to the many nations that align with U.S. values, countries like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran share a disregard for international laws, human rights, and mutual respect. Analysts from independent think tanks have noted that these nations leverage regional crises to foster unrest, potentially transforming isolated incidents into interconnected global conflicts. Tensions on the Korean peninsula escalated significantly this October as China wrapped up its joint military exercise, Sword 2024 billion, focused on Taiwan. North Korean state media reported that about 1.4 million young people were eager to enlist or re-enlist in the military, especially in response to claims that South Korea had sent drones distributing anti-regime materials across Pyongyang. Additionally, North Korea took drastic measures by destroying sections of roadways and rail lines connecting the two Koreas. Such actions recall the long-standing territorial conflicts that, according to regional experts, could spark sudden escalations under certain geopolitical pressures. Importantly, Christopher Seychevich, director of the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, provided insights into the interconnected threats posed by these nations. He warned that if China decided to move militarily on Taiwan, Russia might respond by intensifying its campaign in Ukraine or even menacing NATO territory. Similarly, Iran could destabilize the Middle East, drawing U.S. forces into another complex regional conflict, while North Korea might heighten its military threats. While a formal treaty may not bind these nations, their coordinated actions could be equally potent in a crisis. Historically, China has been North Korea's lifeline, especially since the 1960s, when Pyongyang balanced between China and the Soviet Union for support. With unlimited cooperation now linking China and Russia, Kim Jong-Un faces a choice about whom to prioritize as an ally. This decision could shift the balance of influence in the region, where Xi Jinping's diminishing control over North Korea has become more evident amid warming Pyongyang-Moscow relations. In conclusion, North Korea's support for Russia signals a shift in regional power, weakening China's control over its ally. As Pyongyang grows closer to Moscow, Beijing finds itself in a difficult diplomatic position, balancing its ties with Russia and its diminishing influence over North Korea. This evolving alliance between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea challenges Western influence and escalates global tensions, reshaping China's role on the world stage. Finally, if you enjoy insightful content about China, subscribe to our channel, Facts About China. Please like and share this video with friends to explore more exciting aspects together. Thank you for your support.